Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another Transformers TCG tier list, a little mini-series where you find out just how much of an idiot I am in general. Anthony joining you once again, and we are talking about some BFA stratagems today, or not some, rather all of them, and of course we are ranking them on the patented Hawkhammer tier list, which obviously is completely objective, and you cannot disagree with it, otherwise you are a horrible, horrible human being. But as you know, I am a hot take machine, and I am getting feedback from one of the guests we have on today, but I'll deal with that later. We have two individuals here with me today, and it is not Tank and Legendary per the usual, but rather we have Naga and Dave from the Energon Hustlers here. Gentlemen, great to have you here to keep my hot takes in check.
Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
So, again, if you're not familiar with those two, Dave runs the Energon Hustlers, another Transformers TCG channel. I'll put a link to that in the description. And Naga is our resident I will break everything in sight alpha tester. And, yeah, me and Tank have gotten into several arguments with him over things, most recently over This Shall Be Your Ship. Naga, you should still feel bad about that.
Sure, yeah.
Also, screw you for the Dinobot shenanigans last week. Anyway, so, how are we ranking these stratagems? Well, Dave and Naga, I believe you've watched the other tier list, but I will go over this for you as well as the audience. We have our patented tier list here. OPBL, unquestionably dominant. It is some of the best the game has to offer. A, B, C, D. We're going down in order. And then Cup tier is do not touch this unless you want to have the Bayformers Inquisition come after you for playing bad cards. And yes, I just made that up. I don't know. I'm trying to be funny here, okay? So
the Illuminati, the Bayformers Illuminati will come.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And of course, we're going to be looking at the cards through the context of how much they helped their specific character, how well they mesh with what that character wants to be doing, but without the strat, and how good it was in terms of getting the specific character or whatever into the meta. And just how good the card is in a vacuum as well. So, let's get this party started with Brace for Impact for Wave 1 Ramjet. So, I have it on screen. Naga and Dave, you have it pulled up. Now, I'm going to start off with this one because I have seen it see a bit of play. I mean, most notably, like, there were plenty of Ramjet and Nacelle decks running around that were using this, but it never really cracked into competitive. So, like, I'm thinking it deserves to be somewhere in the middle of the list, but I'm open to room on flexing where exactly that is.
Yeah, I've played with this a fair amount. I think the big problem, because Ramjet is obviously, he's got big boy stats anyway, so this is kind of helping him out. The problem I've always had with this, and I don't know if you guys agree, is because it's reliant on him having upgrades. Then if he doesn't have the upgrade, then it doesn't work. And we all know just how prevalent removal is within sort of the meta game that we all play in, which is the Allied crossplay.
Yep.
I've just found it to be a bit. I would personally be probably like, it helps Ramjet. It makes him more playable in a casual setting, but like in a competitive setting, I probably wouldn't put this above D, unfortunately.
Really?
I'd be the same. Ramjet is terrible. Like, he doesn't see play, and this is too much of a requirement to have these happen. You get a star for a defense always, that's nice, but then most of the time when you play Ramjet, you really always just want to have him in alt mode because he's got base 7 for 10 stars, and I mean, that's the highest of the 10 stars. So
right.
You never really want to flip him. You only really want to invest weapons into him. I've seen him with thrust, so thrust Ramjet is great, but then as soon as you throw this in there, you throw off having a 5-star in there. You got to have a 4-star, and there's not amazing 4 stars that you could pair with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's too much a requirement for the fix to actually go off when you can just remove it, like Dave said.
I think
there's bad choices, yeah.
Yeah, I will give it one thing, and that is it requires any armor or any weapon, and the reason I bring this point up is because I'm a little salty over what happened the other night during my Harmony Wastelands 2 match against Scorp when he smelted my smoke thrower on smoke screen on turn 1 twice and effectively disabled my strategy. Scorp, if you're watching this, screw you. And I'm getting feedback again. But, so, like, you guys are saying D tier, I'm saying, like, I think, like, low C tier is probably where it could go, because, like, I still think there is some potential floating around for it, but it definitely is not as powerful of a strat as some of us were thinking coming out of the BFA beta.
Yeah, I think if you put Nacelle with him, then it's probably, like, a middle tier deck at best.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to stop anything with Exhaust or Sky Shadow or stuff like that. But in a format where it's more intended to be casual, or in a format where those guys are banned because of Garrus 9 potentially, it's an interesting deck just because of how much damage it's able to throw, and of course its consistency when it comes to upgrade plays thanks to Nacelle. So yeah, that is not Beacon, Brace for Impact. We will talk about Beacon right now, and we're going to be looking at this both in the context of when it was 1 star and its current version where it's 2 stars. But either way, I think it's easily OPBL tier without question. And Naga, I know you've had a bit of experience with this, so if you want to lead off on this discussion.
Now here's the thing, right? It's great, but how many characters can use this effectively, right?
I guess that is a fair point.
So, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't put it in OPBL because its actual use is exhaust or horrible. Like, future in, if there's more characters that self-ping, that's great. You could probably get it off with other characters, but it like we've always said, if you put brutal conditioning, if you're playing exhaust, you want to play brutal conditioning. Like, you don't even want to play exhaust stratagem.
Right.
You want to play brutal conditioning first.
Right.
Exhaust stratagem is nice. Talk about that later. But brutal con is 10-star exhaust. That's kind of all it is. You don't see it played with anyone else.
Except occasional things with Bull. And, like, during the Forbidden Encounter, I tried to use him with what I was running, and oftentimes I just found myself siding into Villainous Spotlight instead, because this thing was doing next to nothing.
Yeah, I've used it a fair amount. Like, it is ideally with Bull and Exhaust. I think now it's 2 stars as well. It's less attractive, and particularly with the health heads being like banned in the sort of Bayformers meta as well. Like, it's less good on horrible. Like, he's only got 9 hit points. You start pinging yourself 3 times, he's only got 6 left. So unless you kind of getting that damage movement going or like repairing, like it's not great. I've used it with Dark Awakening Prime quite a bit. It's quite good, but it's kind of like inconsistent. You need to be drawing into the other bits of self-ping. So it really is. It should be exhaust.
Yeah. So I think maybe. Sorry.
I was going to say I kind of agree with Naga. I think it's an A tier because it is good when it goes off. Like +2/+2/+2 is very strong. There's no doubt about that, and it kind of made exhaust like a top tier character for quite some time. And I think he still can be good. He's a very, very, very good character to have with Beacon. So I think A's fair, personally.
Yeah, I would say, like, anywhere in A tier you could kind of slot it in, and I wouldn't disagree with it. Naga, you got any qualms with that?
Yeah. I think it's A tier.
Okay, so moving from one of the powerhouse stratagems to one that people are still trying to figure out, Buried Banquet, to put a black or green upgrade into your opponent's KO area, repair damage from Ayuk. I'm like, right off the bat, I want to say D tier. I have seen this thing used, but how do I phrase this? It does target the most frequent type of icons that you will see, but at the same time, it really doesn't do a whole lot, because often, like, I really don't know how to describe it, but it just doesn't, it feels like it doesn't do enough. But if you guys want to jump in here on this one, like, I really don't know what else to say about it. It's like, it just feels like a D-tier strat to me.
I agree. Like, the investment of a star to have something that maybe only triggers once a game, because like, you're normally going to lead in with either if you're playing the Alicon deck, you're going to be using like Aranek, and then Ayuk normally goes in second. You might get like 1, maybe 2 uses out of this before she goes down, particularly in this orange-black world we live in. I think D's fair. I don't know, but what do you think, Naga?
I think D would be fair, but at the same time, I'm comparing it to Brace for Impact, and I think they're somewhat on the same-ish level, niche character, niche abilities. Well, so I don't think it would be fair to put it...
I would disagree on the niche... actually, no, you're right, on the niche ability thing, but in terms of Ayuk being a niche character, I really would kind of disagree with that a slight bit, just because her alt mode is fairly versatile, because green or black upgrades. So Ayuk does have at least a chance to slot into several different decks, but how often are you going to be slotting the Strat in at that point is the question.
Yeah, like she's great at 5. Like, would I pay 6? Particularly when you're looking at something like with Gilthor or like, you know, Alpha Sentinel or something, like if you're going for that sort of tribal feel.
Right.
Like,
Or like with BFB's Bolag, he cares about your opponent having cards in the KO area, and in fact I'm pulling up what his exact wording is right now so I can confirm this. Where is he on the page? This has +1 attack for each upgrade in the opponent's KO area, and Buried Banquet KOs upgrades, but the problem is we don't know how well a deck with both Bolag and Ayuk is going to be at this point because BFB still is in beta, so that's a bit of speculation, but at the moment, I think we're all in agreement that it does deserve to be in that same league as Brace for Impact, high D tier, low C tier, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think, you know, I don't know if I'd be paying a star for this if I was looking to run her. Like it's okay. It might be relevant like in the sideboard if like they're running like a recursion deck, but there's not too many of them. You know, you don't see many like Trigger Happy. Don't really see a lot of play competitively.
Right.
You know, like if they're running a lot of recursion, Sound Blaster is good against him, but how often do you see Sound Blaster in a competitive sense?
Almost never.
Yeah. I think low C or low C at best with like for potential future shenanigans, but probably for me this sits in the D tier.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it in D just because I have at least seen more of Ramjet floating around, not because of an experience thing, but also just because I've seen more people do stuff with it. Whereas this one, people have tried to use it and it seems to fall flat. We're just going downhill from here. Cantankerous Attitude. I'm going to make the argument this thing is in cup tier because A, it's a block of text, and B, when you actually read this block of text, you're like, why do you want to use this with anything?
Well, Naga's the Dinobot king, so I think Naga should give his thoughts before I give mine.
There's lots of scrapping there, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's lots of resources in Dinobots, and most of the time Dinobots wants to keep what they have. You generally play Jaws of Steel and Dinobots because that thing's amazing in the utility slot to have a flamethrower. But you don't want to scrap it, right? Like, if you're playing Dinobots, you're not really playing much that would stick around. You don't really want to play Erratic Lightning anymore because of their sort of medium health pools just gets pulled over by most other medium to large dudes anyway. And it's lots of stuff. You have to have an upgrade down, then you have to play one just to two damage and scrap that one, and then you can scrap an upgrade from him after the battle, and then just move 1 damage counter over. You would really need to play a upgrade heavy Dinobot list that would stick around, and that's just not a thing.
And here's the unfortunate part about Slug. He is a blank character on both sides, but he's an Autobot, so Nacelle's off the table in terms of getting extra upgrades on the field to even fuel this guy, so...
No, he'd also be at 10 stars, so I don't disagree, it's cup tier.
Yeah.
I completely concur. Like, I think, at the end of the day, like, Cantankerous Attitude's fun for those sort of casual players that don't have Grimlock. But if I was going to play Dinobots and I was paying 10 stars for a character, it's always going to be Grimlock and not Slug with Cantankerous Attitude. So yeah, sadly, cup tier, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and yeah, there's really not much else to say here. Speaking of going back to Nacelle, that mentioned quickly, and characters that want to be ran with him, Cerebro Shell Shock, giving Bombshell a built-in dampening field. I hate to say it, but I want to put it in cup tier.
I think it's marginally better, but if you're playing Bugsy, whether it's orange or blue, you're not going to play Wave 1 Bombshell. Again, I think this is an effort to make them more casually playable.
Right.
Maybe very bottom end of D tier. I wouldn't say cup. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, and it does give him +2 health. And also, if you're playing a blue Bugs build and you have that 1 star for a Stratagem, there's a little thing called One Tough Bug that somebody in this call may or may not have had a hand in working on that is infinitely better. So you might as well, instead of playing Bombshell with this, you might as well just play Sergeant Scrapnel with One Tough Bug, and you'll get a star boost, you get that health boost, and what else does that thing do?
I don't think you get a boost. I don't think. I think it's just extra stars.
No, +2 and a star boost. +2 health, +2 stars.
Yeah, so
I'm glad you know
you're
what my
basically
well,
you're
it's Lee's
basically
card. It's Lee's card. It's not mine.
yeah, you're basically trading compared to you're basically paying 1 more star for a slight star boost with One Tough Bug instead of flipping 4 cards, which I mean that effect is fairly relevant in the orange happy meta we're currently floating around in. But at a 9-star investment on a character at that point, which would have, I believe, 11 health. How much health?
No, 12.
Oh yeah, he is 10 health.
He would be a 3-12-4 or a 5-12-2.
So, but
for
like
9
at 9
stars.
stars, I don't really think that's worth an investment.
No, again, it's kind of geared for sort of casual playing to make a character you would never play, maybe try out. But yeah, he's low tier or cup. I think you're right. You've talked me into the cup tier.
Alrighty, down to the cup tier you go. Bill is probably screaming at his laptop right now about us ranking his cards so terribly. Moving on to the to another Quintesson strat, Colossal Cannons. Basically ping damage when you attack a non-leader Autobot or Decepticon. And I will admit, this thing has saved my ass a few times, but it really hasn't found its way into competitive. And in fact, if I check the 2 losers list that is available on the Bayformers website, because when we're talking about strats, that's actually a really good resource for looking at strats that really haven't historically seen a whole lot of play. Yeah, Colossal Cannons is on there and gives +1 sideboard slot, so it has its uses, but anytime you're running Gilthor, like, if you want to invest into him as your power character, that brings him up to 14 stars. But if you're going for 14 stars, why not just play Shockwave and go for that disruption route instead?
Yeah, I do like Colossal Cannons. I think that consistent ping damage is good. Particularly with his ability to flip, ping, and then like, you know, make them flip as well. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's good, but like, yeah, 14. Like, I think the only time I've kind of really seen sort of Gilthor was Bilmu was playing it, wasn't he, with Acid Storm and Sulfuric Deluge from Phase 1.
Right, I forgot about that.
Then he had, who did he have? Was it Ayuk?
Motomaster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Motomaster was side, and I think he had Ayuk.
Yeah, it was what? No, I think it was ironic because I remember he named the deck Rip Pierce Brosnan as a joke because it was a Pierce Negation deck. And then, yeah, so he had ironic. And I actually mocked or copied that list sort of and gave it to 0 for the first 2 losers event. But instead of Acid Storm with Sulfuric Deluge, I had Warpath with artillery support. So, like, Gilthor has a nice slot in anti-Pierce decks, but you don't have the room for this, unfortunately.
No, I'd probably put this in C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. I will put it below Brace for Impact just because that strat has seen a lot more casual play overall, just because, again, Nacelle makes that a really viable play, but I'm free to moving it around if you guys want to argue it.
No, I kind of agree. That's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, moving on to the next strat. Dave, I think you might have experience with this one, I'm not 100% sure. Dark Regeneration, allowing you to move that turn 1 damage off of Zombie Prime, and I've tried to use this thing a couple of times. It is kind of funny just being able to get 2 damage off before the game, but in terms of its practicality outside of being a cheap way to get Barrage off, like, I'm not sure if the star is really worth it over something like Leap of Faith, or if you're playing a Quintesson deck, one of the aspects.
Yeah, like, I think with Dark Awakening Prime, you kind of the route I was doing was with Brutal Conditioning, albeit when it was 1 star rather than 2.
Right.
So, like, if you're going to look at that model now, like, your Dark Awakening Prime's 11, this would be 12, then Beacon would be 14. It's a lot to invest into a general primish kind of character. I think you can spend your stars better. It's okay. Like, again, it probably sits in low C. Dark Awakening, he hasn't really set the world on fire either, has he? So
yeah, no.
Like, I like him. I think he's a really cool character. I think this is a cool stratagem. But I just think, again, for a star, like you say, there's other ways to spend your star. I think.
Yeah, and at the very least, Dark Regeneration does fit in with Zombie Prime, whereas Ayuk, you really... They have their use, but then the strat just kind of is just an excessive add-on. Like, this isn't necessarily excessive compared to that, but yeah, it definitely fits into that same role where, like, you're taking the character for one reason, and the strat kind of seems like a bit overkill in terms of investment.
Yeah, I think it could see some interest, like particularly we're seeing a lot of Cars decks now. We're seeing a lot of Cars decks with Smokescreen and Obfuscating Cloud. So this in the sideboard, if you're running Dark Awakening Prime, you could run this to like as a tech, like, you know, I'm just going to nerf your safeguard.
Did not need that flashback tonight. Thanks for that. Also, again, Scorp, screw you for that.
But do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I think
I totally get what you're saying. I just wanted to take a cheap shot at Scorp because I'm still salty about that. Also, Impetuous not being able to hit star cards. It had to happen, but I'm salty about it in the moment. Anyways, so moving from one trashy deck that I was playing to another, Death Crystal Cannon. Now, I probably have the most experience out of the three of us in this call right now because I was playing this for 2 losers, and we did also see, I think it was Brett who was playing the other.
Brett played it, yeah.
Yeah, this card is the epitome of this thing is not good, but when you resolve it, you and your opponent are on the floor laughing at what this thing can do. Like, the amount of damage this thing throws out, if you can get it off, is obscene. Like, even, like, 2 damage before the battle is nuts, but when you get it up to 3, it's just like, this should not be allowed.
It takes so much effort, though. Like, you know, I played Brett in the losers, and, like, yeah, by the end of the game, he'd got his 3 cannons out, but by that point, it didn't really matter because my General Megatron was shooting more. Like, I think it's one of those cards, like, Magic players love, and I'm sure, like, the same in Yu-Gi-Oh! And other card games, like, Magic players love, like, a trashy card. You're like, I'm going to make this work. And the potential rewards for Death Crystal Cannon is good. Like, attack, do 3 damage. Seems okay. But it's the effort that it takes to get there. You know, from a tier position, I actually think this is better than Cup tier. I'd probably put this in D myself because of the effort it takes to get there. But when you've got it going, it is frightening, but it's easily turned off by Hollow Matter. So
yeah, without question. Also, I think it does. I think it belongs in either high D tier, low C tier, but I do want to keep it like above Ayuk Strat for sure, because at least with Death Crystal Cannon, you have a clear game plan of what you're trying to do. And yeah. Also, another thing that holds this down is the fact. Whoa, I'm getting echo. I'm gonna quiet down here so that way it doesn't do this. But one of the things that's holding it down is that there isn't really many outlets to KO your own actions outside of Loudmouth from BFB, and the best KO outlet we have for battle cards, at least in this context, is Daring Escape, and that's been universally banned because of how degenerate that can get. So we're in this weird limbo state, like, there are cards that exist that you want that can be used to deal with this, but at the same time, they are just either are banned or they really don't do a whole lot. Now, I have been making headway, and I think Naga will like this, with a version of the deck that uses OPBL to recover failed loading the cannons, and it's actually done some things in early testing. I need to do some more messing around with it, but this thing, it's not going to crack top tier without question, but it's definitely one of those stupid things where in a casual event, it's going to catch a few people off guard.
Yeah.
At least I hope it is. And Naga, I hope you're proud of me for playing the better of the 2 Wave 1 Primes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm directing that comment at Legendary and Tank, who still insists Nemesis is better, and me and Naga are just like, what is wrong with you?
No, I agree with you too. Like, OPBL is the best prime.
Thank you! So, Tank, Legendary, if you say that Nemesis is better, you're both banned from the channel. Anyways, speaking of stuff that Tank has talked about, Energon Reclamation. Now, he was running this for losers, and aside from the hour-long single-game grind fest that he got into with Naga during testing, like, this thing is just... I really do not know what to say about it. I've seen it used exactly twice. Tank was the second time, and I used it in, I believe, the second episode of King of the Jankyard. And, like, it fits into the truck, like, archetypal strategy of just playing that slow blue control grind game. But with the current meta that we're sitting in, especially after Wave 5, like, that really isn't too viable of an option, so I really don't know where exactly I should throw this thing.
I've seen it in action quite a bit. Tank has played it against me a little bit in the past, so it's very good for Nova Star. It's also very annoying if you couple it with other characters that are key pieces that you need to get off the board and stuff like that, and being able to keep them alive. Also, there's stuff like swap missions that makes this very nice. You flip her up and you have a base of 7. If you get damage in, you're always flipping her down to be the 3 defense, and you're just fueling that the counters, pretty much. You're fueling the fuel.
I'm starting to realize how many Bayformers cards inadvertently are swap mission support.
Well, yeah, it's very nice. I reckon I could see it around C, to be fair. I think it's on the same level of what those have. It makes Nova Star a 12. Well, what is she? Like, she's 12, 13. So 13 with 16 health, and it's basically OPBL with 2 more health and 1 less defense and 1 less attack in each mode.
No, it's actually the same. It's actually the same defense in both modes. It's just 1 less.
No, I mean 1 less attack.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I started on myself.
So basically, you subtract the 1 attack in... Actually, no. Same attack in alt mode, just 1 less attack in bot mode.
No, it's 6-8 for prime OPBL.
And Nova Star... Nova Star
7-5, right?
No, she's 7-6.
No, she's 7-6. Wow.
Yeah, so basically you're losing an attack in bot mode for +2 health and the card trait in alt mode.
Yeah. Yeah, she builds up the fuel. She's got an extra 3 health. She's very viable at 13-star slot, especially when you look at Octone.
She's also not a leader, I should mention that.
No, but she is a car truck.
Right,
and
so
team up tactics is very nice. But yeah, it's a very niche thing. She's also blank, so there's not much to do apart from having the stratagem. So I think C tier is where it should probably be.
Yeah, seems
I think
reasonable.
I think one thing that Bill was really keen to do, obviously, with World Strike was to give some of these vanilla characters a bit more of like a bit more charm, because they're very boring otherwise, aren't they? You wouldn't really, like, outside of limited play back in the day when we were allowed to like booster draft and crack real packs, you know, like she was good, like she was good in limited, but yeah, sort of constructed. So I can see why we've got so many of these kind of like sort of less attractive characters because they're vanilla, having these stratagems in. But I think you know, C, yeah, I think that's pretty fair, and she's good. Like she's not shabby, and particularly again from a perspective of, like, you know, if we ever start exploring like commons only, aka Junkion or whatever, within sort of the Bayformers community, in Junkion she's going to be A tier
without question. And also, I would actually, she can't use her strat in Junkion because it's a rare.
Ah, poo.
But 2 points on the vanilla thing. Like, one, I'm pretty sure Wizards at one point, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, but they said they wouldn't make another vanilla character around Wave 4 and 5 before the game was canceled. And second, the vanilla argument is absolutely correct. Like, I'm going to use Yu-Gi-Oh! As an example here. People will not play normal monsters unless they have some sort of application and some sort of mini-engine, or they're required for the deck to function. Like, the most famous example of that right now is with Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Like, everybody who tries to play that has to play Red Eyes Black Dragon and Dark Magician, despite the fact they're vanillas in their deck, just because of the fact that those are the 2 monsters you need in order to make Dark Dragoon. And I realize that probably went over both of your heads, but some people in the audience probably picked up on that. John, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I think it's the same in Magic the Gathering. There's loads of vanilla creatures in that, and like outside of limited formats, they weren't played. And I think that's what these characters were meant for, was limited play.
Yeah, probably.
Back during the game's lifespan, you know, a lot of people turboed, a lot of people did sealed decks and that sort of thing, and they were fun, and these characters were good in that. Like Ramjet, like going back to him, like he was amazing in sort of turbo drafts and stuff. So
right, absolutely,
they have a role to play, but in a wider constructive format, these stratagems could just give a bit of help.
Right. So, Enterprising Spotlight. Now, we all know how good heroic and villainous have been throughout the game, or throughout the history of the stratagem mechanic. That's probably the best way to say it. But for this one specifically, I'm gonna make the argument that it is in cup tier, and hear me out on this. The reason heroic and villainous Spotlight are so good is because you have a wide range of options in terms of synergy within a single faction for you to build around, so that way you can take these. Mercenaries do not have that luxury. They very much are independent creatures. They are very much lone wolves, and mixing multiple of them together is generally a bad idea, because you have a bit of an identity crisis in terms of what your team actually is trying to do. And as a result, outside of maybe Bruticus, this really isn't too good of an idea. But even with Bruticus, there is a better strat in BFA that gives Bruticus a bit of support despite the downside. So Enterprising Spotlight is really just sitting there with nothing to do.
I would disagree. I think with Bruticus, I do like the shock blast stratagem that we're talking about, the third party brigade.
Right.
I've run this with Bruticus with 2 copies of Plunder, and when you flip those on Bruticus's combined turn, it is gnarly. I don't think this is cup. I would probably, because it's so. I think at the moment it's, but there are more mercenaries being developed by the crossplay community. I think this is better than cup. Probably D or very low C, with the potential to spike later in the game. And also, the black pip cards, the star cards that we have for black at the moment, aren't great. And from my perspective, and I know sort of the Arc and Bay forms are the same, is we're not trying to make too many more black pip cards because of how strong black is.
Right, and also, we 2 things. One, on the plunder point, admittedly, to me, that seems like a bit of a Magical Christmas Land scenario. And second, with the black icon star card point, that is very much true. Like, the other night, Bill was talking to me about potentially changing Shard of the Divine Light to an orange Wrecker icon instead of a black Wrecker icon, just so that way people couldn't use Solo Job on it. Because, again, that card was kind of the reason that I lost my match to Scorp the other night. Like, I brought that match up so many times today, but it is a relevant example here. So, yeah, black star cards definitely have a bit of power behind them, just because it's a lot easier to cheat them in compared to other colors.
You know, I think it's not Magical Christmas Land per se. I think having 2 copies of Plunder in your Bruticus deck when he can go bold and stuff as well.
Oh yeah,
I've done it. I wouldn't say it's every game, but it is pretty easy to do. And I think I don't think it belongs in cup. I'd say D. I don't know what Naga thinks.
Yeah, I think it was going to be D. I mean, you never want to play a team of all mercenaries apart from Bruticus. He's got bold too in his combined, so I mean, it's a little bit more likely, not extremely likely, to hit a plunder. But I mean, the fact of you just having a plunder in the entire list itself, you flip one and those little characters are 3 PS3, just like that. You flip it on Bruticus, you deal 3 damage to someone with that one card, and you've got another 3 flips. If you flip 2, you're doing 6. You're doing better than Swarm already if you flip both of them, you know?
You have convinced
so with
me...
Bruticus, it's good, but... Yeah.
You have convinced me to move it up to D tier.
Yeah.
Speaking of cards that cheat in extra star cards, Forbidden Sorcery, so here's the thing about Forbidden Sorcery, is that Red Wizard is... how do I put this lightly? He's a pretty bad character. I'm checking the BFA tier list right now.
I think you cupped him.
Yep, he is in cup tier between Armada and Drebzik. And, again, we reserve cup tier for, like, the worst of the worst. So, a cup tier character with a strat, like, the strat is, unless it's, like, absolutely ridiculous, is not going to do anything. And you look at the list of available blank star cards, and it is just atrocious. Like, I'm pulling it up on Teletrain here
It's not
right
good.
now.
It's not good. It's not good.
Let's see. Okay, Teletrain is at least cooperating with me right now, so that's a positive, which reminds me.
The only good one is Bolt of Lightning.
Yeah. Your four options, if you include BFB, are Bolt of Lightning, Blast Suit, Lucky Dodge, and Wave of Lightning. And I'm pretty sure Tank has argued for Lucky Dodge in the past. Either that or Lucky Vest. No, it was Lucky Vest. So ignore what I was about to say. Bolt of Lightning is the only good one on that list. Unless you're playing a ranged Quintesson, then Wave of Lightning might be a viable option.
He is a ranged Quintesson.
So, okay, so Wave of Lightning is an option, but still, you have two options for this. That's not too good, especially considering it's not providing any icon value like the Black Star cards are. I can speak.
It's cup tier.
It is cup tier. It does synergize nicely with him though, because his bot mode works with 1-star cards that are blank, that I believe. And to be completely fair, the annoying thing is he's 8. Barricade is 7, and Skywarp is 10. So you can't fit the Stratagem into a 3-wide team that loves blank cards.
Unless you're playing Primus, but even then I'm not sure this is a good idea.
Well, yeah, also, exactly, but
also, I mean... the term synergy at that point is very loose, because again, Red Wizard is not a very good character.
I mean... I would argue that he could be good in the blank deck because you play Barricade, put a card underneath him that you can play next turn, and then you get to pull something in from Red Wizard when one of your characters battles. So you can get your good blank cards, and then you can have a decent turn 2. But I mean, the issue is that you're playing blank.
You're gonna get wrecked defensively, so those characters are not.
Yeah, exactly. And Skywarp's not the best either.
No, I had fun with Skywalk, Wave 2 Skywalk. I've had fun with him, but would I consider ever putting him anywhere near a tournament apart from losers? No.
Yeah.
No. And I think you know, I've tried most characters in BFA. I've tried most of them. We've put most of them on the channel. I always try and build decks with every character. Red Wizard, unfortunately, is just sat in the binder. I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't. I'd just rather do something else than build a deck with him in. So sorry, Bill.
And I have tried to build with him, just never pans out. So speaking of things that are annoying, Naga, I'm looking at you on this one. Hit me with that beat. Confess for your crimes. Start talking.
Hit Me With That Beat is a very sleeper card. You can play it in particular lists, and it becomes very, very annoying. My losers list,
I can tell Tank is having... Oh, hold on. Time out for a second. I can tell Tank is currently feeling this. Okay, you can go back to talking now. I just had to insert that joke in.
Well, Hit Me With That Beat is it's a very interesting card. I wouldn't say it's OPBL. I wouldn't probably put it in A either. I mean, it'd probably be our first B on the list from my perspective. To be fair, if you've got Repair and you do this with Jazz, I mean, it goes very well. There's stuff that you can do with other cards now, especially with Trop being released. Electrostatic Shielding is amazing with Jazz. And then it helps with Hit Me With That Beat too. So there's lots of times where I play an Electrostatic Shielding. Jazz is going to take like 3 hits in a single turn. He takes the first 2 and he goes around to, 1, 2, then 3, then 6 most of the time. And then you Electrostatic Shielding and then they can't do 2. And they can't actually get Jazz off the board for the last one. Unless they have a pierce weapon. But yeah, the amount of damage that you have to put into Jazz, if you play it correctly, he can heal it off. You play it with the fallen, not fallen hero, the healing prime in wave
Whatever that one is.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
with
one.
like I've played him with Apex. And you always have to go into Jazz unless I send Prime in, and I get to choose when Prime takes damage, and then I can heal Prime if I want to.
Right.
The main issue with that deck is the damage output is not high. If Jazz takes lots of ping damage, then he will die. It's a very good stratagem, but I don't think it's OPBL or A tier, just because there's things that destroy it. Honestly, there really is.
I'm tempted to put it in high C tier just because it's only been a recent discovery in terms of its overall lifespan. Outside of that, it really never saw any play because nobody could figure out what the dang thing is because we all suffer from TCG player syndrome collectively.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say B because this, if the deck is built correctly, is gonna really infuriate your opponent. You know, you're talking about repair stuff like, you know, there are some cheap mercenaries out there. Like if we look at the whole ally thing, I know.
Hold on, time out. Say that again. You were cutting out.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, I can hear you fine. It was just technology decided to stop working.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I would argue B because it can really frustrate your opponent. I think there's a lot of mercenaries that are around. If we look at the wider ally crossplay thing, you know, looking at when the arc is going to operate, if you the Combaticons are really good individual cheap mercenaries. We've got Nightbird from Phase 1 who and that just enables opportune repairs. There's nothing more frustrating than fighting to get all that damage through onto Jazz and then you just get opportune repairs 3 of it away.
Yep.
You know.
The better combos that I've realized, Ultra Magnus armor on Jazz, he doesn't take damage from a stratagem, and if you keep him at 0, your opponent can't actually do damage to him unless they ping him beforehand, and they have to get through 2. They would have to remove Magnus armor. There was a time where I versed Frank. I missed my white triggers in there, but Frank was unable to do any ping or remove my Magnus armor at that stage of the game. If I hit my white triggers, he would have done nothing to Jazz. A 3 wide sweep with his cards, he would have done 0 damage. So that's very insane.
I will say, nobody will discover that because I just censored that whole segment out. I do not need more people playing this card.
And then Techno brought to the attention to me a little while ago after doing the losers is that with my deck with Wave 5 Prime, if Wave 5 Prime dies, then it enables emergency maintenance, and that will the toolbox is repair 5, because it's an instance of 1 and then an instance of 2. So you repair 5 off the single action of Jazz, and that's very, very big near the end of the game, especially if Prime dies. You can still have Apex on the field as well. And yeah, you can repair 5 off Jazz with a toolbox with a single action, and then slap on, like I play the Medic's Protector Field and Emergency Repair Patch, and then you've healed 7 in a single turn. And most of the time that's enough to keep Jazz alive and going again. So
hold on 1 second. Hi, yes, Bait Forward's Inquisition. Yeah, Naga's acting up again about hit me with that beat. This time you may have to resort to some more, permanent decisions to stop him from doing that. No, not that. Just lock him up, please. Just get him, just shut him up. I don't care what it takes, just... What do you mean? What do you mean you'll allow it? They hung up on me. You got lucky.
So I think it's B tier. If you build the deck right, Jazz can be very annoying, and Jazz can never die.
I want this video to remain objective, but I also just want to spite you and keep it in C tier. Fine, I'm not going to be a dictator this time. I'll put it in B tier, but it stays at the bottom whether you like it or not. Anyways, in the name of Slingshot, I don't know what to say about this. Like, if I remember correctly, Tank used this during the Forbidden Encounter. I'm checking that right now, but...
He did. I put that deck on my channel. Yes, he did.
But aside from that, this thing is not exactly that good. And if you're wondering how Tank managed to do well with this in the Forbidden encounter. We don't talk about why that is the case. I have my reasons. But outside,
I don't think it's bad. I don't think this card is bad at all. I think Superion is still the best of the WotC combiners outside of Trop Devastator.
Yeah, and also outside of Ves Bastard on screen. You know who I'm talking about.
I think a 6-wide Superion team is good. The only thing that sort of keeps him in check is the power of sort of Wave 5 Autobot hate that they got with like Magray and stuff.
Yeah, and it's not even Autobot hate, because Orange-Black was also one of the symptoms of Wave 5, and that kind of kills Superion just because he wants to play that more control strategy. And while we do have answers now like Tetranite and stuff like that, I really don't know how... I don't know. I really don't know what to say here.
I think it's because Superion is bad. Like, Combine... Not Superion is bad, I think Combiners are bad.
He was the best of them. I would say C for this, because a 6-wide aerial bot team is nothing to sniff at.
Yeah,
No.
I'm going to put it below everyone else, because at the very least with these, you have room for other things to do. In the name of Slingshot, you're locked into Superion inherently just because of how combiners work.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But I think this is better than people think. And I think if you build your blue deck right, and again, it goes back to the Jazz conversation we just had. If you build Superion right, and you're main decking Tetranites, you're main decking Electrostatics, you're putting up those walls to keep your aerial bots alive, he is bloody good once he's combined. Like, you know, he shoots for 3 on combine, he's got Pierce, he's good. You know, give him an Energon Axe and he is laughing. And also, this enables Energon Axe. You're on the, if you're playing second, like, you can just go turn 1 Energon Axe, bosh, and those little guys are starting to do damage. I don't think it's as bad as people think.
Yeah, or like, if you're particularly crazy, bombing run on turn 1 going second, so that's an option.
Yeah, that would also be hilarious.
Yep. Speaking of hilarity, not necessarily in a good sense, indigestion, me and Tank touched on this in the BFA tier, or the BFA characters tier list, but I think this thing deserves to be at the bottom of Cup tier, because we talked about how Gnaw has a bit of an identity crisis as a tank that only has 4 health and not enough defense, and he isn't able to stick around for long enough to do anything. And this strat enables that even or not enables, that's the wrong word, plays into that even further, because you want to get a ton of cards under him, but the problem is he dies to a stiff breeze, and as a result, you're not going to be able to do anything, so you just wasted 5 stars that you could have spent on, I don't know, Ironic, Flame War, Night Racer, Ayuk, any of that. But no, you decided to play a Sharkticon that has about as much meat on its body as I do.
It's terrible. Like, Nor is arguably the worst Sharkticon.
It's the unplayed Sharkticon. Everyone plays the other 3 in the list. You don't play Nor.
Completely agree.
Without question.
No arguments here. No arguments here. I don't think there's really much to say about indigestion.
Yeah, calling this thing trash is an insult to literal trash.
Yeah. I think the ability of the card is really good. The problem is it's the character it's attached to. If this was on a 12, 13 health character and you were able to put loads of cards under him, like being able to direct damage someone for a lot is good. The problem is Nor's never going to get to that point. He's going to get KO'd, at which point any cards you've managed to get under him go into your scrap pile, and even if you pit him back, you've got to start all over again. No, I would not pay a star for this.
Right, absolutely. No. So that's enough of talking about that nonsense. Neil before us. So if you're playing the helmet, you get Brave on the character that it is on, which this plus the helmet is cheaper than the dedicated Brave head at the cost of you don't get a deployable Titan Master. And where is this thing on the losers list? It's not on the losers list? Hold on a second. I don't know what to say here, so I'll let you two take this one.
I think you just made the valid point there. It's cheaper than what is it? Is it Doomshot?
I think
It is Doomshot.
Yeah,
Yep.
Doomshot is the
Doomshot's
one,
3 stars. Yep.
It's cheaper, but you're not getting the body at the end of it, which inherently,
You're not getting Brave twice. Doomshot has Brave again as well. That's the very key thing. When that character goes down, for an extra star, you get another Brave on the field.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say D for this. Like, I think the only times I'd consider playing the Mind Control is, like, if I just wanted a 1-star head and I'd run out of the other ones that I could put my Titan Masters.
Right, and
Yep.
really the only other use of the 1-star heads that we have seen is the one list that me and Tank constantly try to make work, where you play the 2 Decepticon bodies with the Quintesson heads and just quid pro quo damage between the two, but that list is still very, very unoptimized, and neither of us have been able to crack it yet. So...
Yeah, like, it's not terrible. Like, Brave is a strong ability,
right.
but it's just not as good as other options available to you. Like Naga said, you pay an extra star and you Brave head that when it pops off is Brave again.
Right.
So, yeah.
So yeah, that's...
Yeah, happy with that one.
Yeah, okay, that seems reasonable. Next up, Localized Tremors for Alpha Sentinel. Pulling up the tier list again, we put Alpha Sentinel in D tier, and Tank, I believe, mentioned Localized Tremors in that video, and I'm just going to talk about this again. There was a lot of hype going around Localized Tremors, at least coming out of the beta, because during the beta, it was found that a team of Alpha Sentinel, and actually was Localized Tremors in that. Hold on, I need to do some quick math. 16 plus 9. Actually, nope, wait, never mind. Ignore what I was about to say. Localized Tremors was not used in the list that was found to be able to beat Sky Shadow somewhat during the beta, and it has some powerful abilities, don't get me wrong. A lot of characters can't compete with Alpha Sentinel's defense buffs, and being able to just scrap upgrades if multiple enemies untap, which is basically the wheel turn, is nice, but outside of that, in a practical context, it really doesn't do a whole lot.
No, it's okay, isn't it? It's okay. It's all right, if you get Alpha Sentinel set up. I think the problem I have with Alpha Sentinel, I'd rather play Loot Crate Omega with Lod. So
yeah, but hey, we do not bring that card up.
We're gonna have to in a minute.
Oh yeah. Well, I will. What's the word I'm looking for here? Oh yeah, prepare for my inevitable flashbacks. But back to Localized Tremors.
C, I think.
I
It's
would
not bad.
not put it that high. I'd probably put it below Death Crystal Cannon, because at least we know what to do with everything else here. This we really don't.
I think it's the fact that Alpha Sentinel's already taken up a big chunk of your stars, and this card, whilst is okay, it's not probably doing enough, and it's probably taking away a star which you'd rather spend on a character, or a Nebulous maybe if you're going tribal.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Next on the list, Magnetic Boomerang. While Ion Storm is in alt mode, your opponent cannot essentially scrap, what are they called? Your upgrades. They just bounce back to the hand instead, and you have +2 health, so for 13 stars, it's decent. And I mean, during Losers, we saw Bill use this in an OA package with Nacelle, which, the funny story behind that is, you probably don't know this, but during the recording of the BFA character list, Bill was just listening in on the call the entire time, and I explicitly at one point during the video said nobody has cracked the code for a Nacelle OA deck, and then Bill goes and does things with the Nacelle OA deck in Losers 1, using Magnetic Boomerang as part of the engine. So make of that what you will, but outside of that, this thing really hasn't seen a whole lot of action.
Again, it's boosting a vanilla, not quite full vanilla character, but an almost vanilla dude. Right. It makes him slightly more playable. I've got a soft spot for Ion Storm. He's one of the first characters when I first started playing, Wave 3 had just come out, and like what I think one of the first beefy sort of Decepticons I was playing around with was Ion Storm. Like he's fun. I think this is good, like you said, like for the OA thing. I'd probably put it either high D or low C, because he's got good stats. I think for 13 for his beefcake stats is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I'll put it at the top of D tier, kind of like in that same category as Cup, and I'm getting Echo again. Whoops. But yeah, so yeah, around that same category as like what with Cup strat. So Naga, you got anything to say on this?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so mass displacement drive, another one of these things that we just cannot figure out to save our life. It basically turns Soundwave into a 5-star character during the game while he's in alt mode. But it's not active on turn 1 because you have to flip him to alt mode to activate it. You guys can argue over this one all you want. I'll shut up for this.
The Cup.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reasoning?
This Soundwave is not good at all. You can play two of the spy patrols with them, and that's it. And they just die to like a gentle breeze, you know. They just die. If you want to play it orange to get those nice untaps, to get all those PS hits in with them, that's a great idea, but they just die.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
He's definitely not the Blaster Soundwave caliber. Like
No.
that we've been shown by Ozzy how good Soundwave from that iteration, of Soundwave is.
Without question.
This, outside of like, I'm going to put a laser cutlass on him, or I'm going to, the bigger they are, it's no. I agree.
I mean, you can new orders him, but I mean, at that point, you have to make sure he's flipped down when you want to flip your other cassettes as well. You have to invest 2 flips to this guy to untap him with new orders to flip him back up, so you actually get the untap. You can doing 3 whole turns unless you have some flip actions, and those turns you want to spend putting your cassette, your spy patrols in the actual other mode. So like Laserbeak has PS2, Ratbat can tap and use the heal. It's just too much. You have to do too much to make this work, or for a team that's nowhere near good anyway.
Yeah, that's understandable. So I'll put him at the top of Cup tier because I have seen some things floating around. Like I think Bill was trying it with Ravage, Raider Ravage, Nacelle, and Soundwave for a while. But yeah, Nebula Spotlight. So I was talking about this during the character video about with the Liberata. Where does its power stop and its inherent need to be played in Shark start? And that is the same question I posed for Nebula Spotlight, because for the Sharks team, having the stars from this to get your aspect, specifically Aspect of Laughter, is key for the card for that strategy to function. So where do we stop judging this as a standalone card and start judging it based on the fact that it is needed in order for Sharks to work?
I think that's the main thing, isn't it? I think where it sits at the moment is it's only really used in the Liberata decks, because the other judge that we currently have is terrible. Like, there's not enough star cards in green that would benefit Gilthor and or Alpha Sentinel. So I think for me, I would say B, because Sharks is a reasonable deck, but it's really it's only Sharks that really benefit from this at the moment. Obviously, BFB's got the Tyrant, or whatever he's been renamed to, that nonsense name.
Sharktacon Tyrant. I'm gonna stop you there, and I need to actually deafen myself here because I'm getting up. There we go again. If anybody claims that the current subname for Sharkatron is actually good, I will ban you from the channel and order the Inquisition after you, because that is not a good subname. It is Sharktacon Tyrant, whether you like it or not, and I am still pissed! Hey everybody, Anthony here, jumping in quick to tell you about something while my past self is raging about Bill's stupid decision to change Sharkatron's subname. Now what is this big thing I'm telling you about? The next big event in the Allied crossplay scene, the Omega Invitational, which is the thrilling finale to the World Strike Tournament Season 1, of which 16 players, including myself, will be facing off in this double elimination final showdown for the Omega Cup. all of the unforgettable face-offs began on March 28th. However, the festivities are beginning early with a series of giveaways. In the first week of celebrations, which is happening as this video goes up, Team Bayformers is giving away complete sets of Allied Crossplay cards, as well as a Wave 5 Autobot Outback autographed by his artist, Dan Kana, and his original G1 voice actor, Greg Berger. You can sign up for all the weekly giveaways on the link at the link on your screen, I can speak, bit.ly/OI giveaways. And for those looking for promo codes, here's one right now. This one is exclusive for this video, so make sure you use it. Use the promo code AJJZ in your entry, and you'll get an additional entry for the giveaway. Already entered a code? No worries. You can go back and edit your form to add this code that you found. And lastly, if you're watching this video before the grand final starts, which that is to be determined, you still have time to enter the code to get an extra entry. Again, if you want another entry for the OI giveaways, enter the code AJJZ on the form at bit.ly/OI giveaways before the end of the grand finals. And now, back to our tier list. Okay, so now that we've gotten my usual Rage episode out of the way for the thing, back to, Shark the Con Tyrant.
You can't use it with him.
Oh, yeah, okay, never mind.
He's Quint and Decepticon. There's been the ruling that it does not work.
Right, and I did put out a petition to change that ruling, and then I realized that was not a good idea. So,
yeah, there was also an issue prior that Sharkatron actually didn't include the star discount bonus on himself because himself was a Decepticon, which was later fixed. And that's a different version of the Sharks. I think this is good. You have 22 stars of Deliveraba, and there are 3 Sharks that you want to play, not Nor. And then you play your Pit of Judgment, going to 23. You include the Nebulas, 24. Then you play the extra aspects, so you have all 3. And it's obviously the one that reduces the green discard cost for stuff like Pit of Judgment, etc., etc.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was always running two Laughter and 1. Is it Doubt? The untap one?
Doubt. Yeah, Doubt.
Yes. Sometimes that's like really clutch, like untapping Deliberata and doing.
Yeah.
Oh, without
But
question.
yeah. I think Nebulous Spotlight is one of those cards that currently it's very niche, but if we see more green star cards printed, that would help like Gilthor and Alpha Sentinel out. It may become more powerful.
Right. So yeah, I think we're in consensus there.
Yeah.
Orbital Command. Aside from my past trauma that Varel has inflicted on me with this, it was changed to be 2 stars, so you can now no longer have a 5-wide Omega build. Thank God. But I don't know where to put this. Like, if we're looking at its overall history, like, it probably slots somewhere into either a low C tier or high D tier, maybe. But if we're talking about where it's at right now, it's no question D tier.
Never mind. Off-road cycle's meant to be next in alphabetical order, but anyway.
Oh yeah, we'll get back to that in a moment, but
No, that's all good.
Orbital Command. Anyways.
Was reading the wrong one then.
So, yeah, where exactly do we slot this sucker?
It's Captain Omega.
Here's the thing. Like, I do not want to be saying anything on this because I will fully admit this. I have a heavy bias against Captain Omega because of the shenanigans Varel and Techno have pulled on me. Which, by the way, Techno, again, screw you for what you named your deck in Encounter 4.
the Hawks trauma deck.
Yeah,
I think deploying a countdown for free. Or for like halving his cost, like if this is 2 stars and these normally 4, like 2-star countdowns, good. Captain Omega is reasonable. I'd say C be where I'd probably put this because, like, Captain Omega's not top tier. You know, we've seen some good players run him. Like, Techno is arguably very, very proficient with his Captain Omega deck.
right.
But he's like Captain Omega isn't a OPBL tier character. He's like C at best. But 2-star countdown is good. There's no arguing about that. So I'd say C.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because of the nerf, I'm going to drop it down to low C tier just because of its former power level and all. We're gonna jump back a little bit in the set list now. Off-road cycle. Me and Tank were talking about Axor a little bit and kind of like how he's sort of faltered despite his neat concept. And funny story, this was actually the first card that had a station on it. It just was not considered a station during BFA's normal run. And then when vehicles were introduced in the BFB beta, which is currently running at the time of this event, being uploaded, it got changed to a station, which this thing just allows you to return sidecar artilleries from your scrap to your hand, which is nice in theory, but it requires you to play a team of characters that have low attack. And while we have seen things like Nitro Boosters do things, those are best played in a team where you do have at least one big bungus that are swinging, and those often comprise of a large character investing a ton of stars, and then a bunch of like 5-star characters. With the way Axel is costed, you can't necessarily do that just because it does kind of force you into 2 mid-range characters unless you play a really wide team, which questionable at, I don't know.
I think the thing is with this, the effect only happens with Axor. Axor is the only action master that we have.
Right.
If they kill Axor, then you just have a +1/+1 for a 12-star bot. I've seen a lot of
12-star or less.
exhaust. 12-star or less, sorry. Yes, I've seen lots of exhaust played with them, but then at that point, most people played like Brutal Con and then like a 7-star character instead of playing this with a 6-star, you know? Just because it is kind of easy to pull off-road cycle, I guess. In a way, you can pull upgrades on from your other characters to the new ones that overwrite, and there you go. There's a fence counter. So you can get to on it pretty nicely as long as you have to keep playing the same sort of upgrades and then keep shifting them to Axor to cycle them off to get this. But then I think the bonus is like kind of not there. I mean, Axor kind of falls over to a little bit of wind. I mean, you want to get him off the field because he does stuff with bounties, and then you can keep annoying upgrades on Axor and use them again, sort of thing. Like axes, you can pull on weapons you can use for the attack and then pull them on. So I mean, they're no longer on the character that you got to swing into. But then, you know, Axel's the target. Axel dies, and the station's just the +1/+1 health. You know,
So
it's not the best thing. I feel like it's C tier, to be fair.
Maybe I'm getting the sense we're kind of like hovering this thing around low D tier, cup tier potentially.
Yeah, I've run Vangelis's Axor deck, and whilst it was incredibly fun, everything Naga just said is true. Like, Axor just falls over. You give him a good wallop, and he's gone. I'd say D, just because it's Axor. Just because it's Axor. Like, I'd love Axor to be better. I'd love there to be better mercenaries to do some crazy shenanigans with him. But I think everyone's been really careful around, certainly within the allied crossplay community, of how mercenaries are handled, because of just how all they need is that little nudge to be a bit too good, and then, like, you know, cards like this could be insane.
Looking at you, Exhaust. And I am going to be a dictator here and put it in cup tier. I'll put it at the top of cup tier as a concession to Vangelis, though. Anyways, Pit of Judgment. I'm going to argue OPBL. I'm going to argue OPBL because this thing is what makes Sharks viable without question. It makes them... this is what just revolves their entire strategy.
Yeah, it's really good. It is really, 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 really good. And I think the ability to recur Sharks is... But have Sharks won an encounter to warrant the OPBL status. I'd say this is A tier. This is on par with Beacon. I don't think it's OPBL. It's
Shark.
good.
Yeah.
I guess I can see that. I'm gonna put it below Beacon then. This is gonna be a controversial take, so let us know your thoughts down in the comments, because like, I still feel like it could be OPBL tier, but again, I'm getting 2 disagreements here, and
it's not the best thing.
I don't want to piss off one of the admins, so I am just going to not be a dictator right now.
I mean, it's nice, but I mean, you get 3 revives of a shark.
4 revives.
You know,
4 revives.
4.
Yeah.
Number of quintessons. Sorry, so 4. You get 4 revives. I mean, you know,
Like it's good. I think down the line, if we see more Sharkticons like brought into the game, that could nudge this up. It depends how Kledgy sort of makes impact once the final release comes out. Like Pit of Judgment may rise in power. Currently, though, we've seen Sharks top 8. We haven't seen them win anything.
Right.
Nah. And plus, I mean, if you remove the judge, then the entire thing turns off.
Touche.
Yeah.
And that's not a terribly hard feat because you tap the judge anyway. Anyway, A is good.
Yeah, next up on the list, Quite a Haul. Now, I have a bit of experience with this thing as I was running it in Encounter 4, kind of as a joke, because I discovered that, using this thing to get a +4 attack boost with Lockdown is kind of stupid. But then I just realized Gyrick exists, and yeah, I swapped over to him. But this definitely is... It's one of those cards that just is inherently funny when it resolves. Like, it's not like the same, like, ha-has as Cup, like, oh my god, I just half-nuked a character. It's more just, okay, I am getting to do everything right now, and I absolutely love it. So, like, I'm tempted to put it in D tier, but I'm open to moving this thing.
Oh my gosh, I disagree entirely.
Really?
I mean, you put this with Lockdown, and Lockdown becomes a 12-star character, and his stat line actually matches this 12-star character. He's 412, 415-2 in bot mode. You kill something, he boosts straight up to 8, and then from there you snowball. You kill the second character, he's base 12. And then the third character will fall over like a leaf in the breeze, literally.
Wait, how is he base 12? I'm trying to figure this out, because isn't it +2
You kill first one, you go to 8. +2, right? You kill the second character, he goes to base 12.
Okay, and also the point on that... actually, no. I was gonna say, how wide of a meta are we in where that is a viable option without ending the game, like, by virtue of achieving the victory condition, but then I remembered we're in a wide meta right now, so I'm just gonna shut up.
I mean, that's only on a three characters is the generic, default way that you would play the game, right? If Lockdown kills the first 2, I mean, you kill the first one, the little guy with Lockdown, you go to base 8. You kill the medium guy, you go to 12. The big guy's probably just gonna fall over at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as well, like looking at characters like Octone, him triggering twice, he's good. Okay, it pushes him to 15 stars, but like Lockdown.
His stats is sort of like in line at the same time as well. You could arguably say a 15-star character with 17 health that can get 8 base is actually a right for if I kill something, I'm gonna ping I can ping 2 characters for 2 or a single character for 4. It's very good.
Yeah,
I don't think it's D tier.
No. I'd say it's only held back from being higher than, let's say, a C because there's only a handful of characters that are really abusing this at the moment, or could abuse this at the moment. Again, it's one to watch. If we get more mercenaries that have really, really spicy bounty abilities, this could spike in power. I'd say C, just because it's only really 2 characters that I can think of that would really benefit from this.
Mudflap could benefit from this a little bit, but then, I mean, his stat line kind of matches a 10-star as well, but getting the lower characters to hit the bounty ability is probably the main issue there. I think Lockdown and Octone can hit the bounties pretty easily because of where they are. I mean, Lockdown's a car, you can dual wield double grenade launchers, and I mean, you'll probably end up killing something after your other guy's attack, but I mean, Mudflap, as much as he'd be nice to use this while playing the top 2, I believe it is. He won't be that great with securing a kill like Octone or Lockdown could be.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so where are we sticking this thing?
I think C.
Yeah, I'd say C.
Okay, where exactly in C should we slot this in?
I feel like it's high C. I don't feel like it's good, but like Dave said, it's limited right now.
Yeah, after Nova Star, I'd say.
Okay, moving on then, as I send this message. Sound the alarm. When Pipes is KO'd, you flip, it gives a character a +2 health bonus, and you return a card with Brave or Stealth in its text box. That includes Spy Sat.
I think this is a very sleeper card.
Pipes himself is a decent card, but I honestly think the strat deserves to be at the bottom of D tier just because Brave and Stealth, aside from Brawl, who's a problem and has been banned for a little bit, Brave and Stealth doesn't seem to be too relevant in my experience.
I think you're forgetting that you can pull in Spy Sat and the other one, Battlefield Scan, as well.
That's what I mean. Yeah. They're not relevant enough to warrant playing those two.
I mean, there's sometimes in sideboard, but at the same time, you can have your own Brave stuff that you bring back as well.
But again, like, how many decks absolutely need those to function? And if they need it to function, why are they not playing a character with it?
I think it's a sleeper as well.
I really think it's I think the big thing is the +2 health.
Yeah. Pipes is okay. Like I've seen Pipes do some really not top tier.
Say that again. You cut out again.
Sorry, bud. I was saying, like, Pipes and Sound Blaster are naughty together. Like, and they like Pipes dying, giving Sound Blaster +2 health could be spice. It's okay. A sleeper again depends what comes down the line, doesn't it?
I think it works really well with Octone, to be fair. Because it goes to 7 stars, you play Octone 20, and then you play, like, Night Racer. Pipes pulls in 2 damage from your Octone, and then when they eventually kill Pipes, you give Octone 19 health. I mean, he'll probably take some damage over the battle, but you give someone a free +2 health that your opponent can't do anything about. There is absolutely nothing your opponent can do about this. They can't scrap it. It's the inevitable, right? And you can always just throw him in to the point where a wide team might be able to get down your big character a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you throw Pipes in enough at your opponent, whereas he's the only one, then yeah, he's gonna die. I mean, it also, the stratagem synergizes in itself that you want Pipes to die first, to Brave and a Brave card on Pipes, making them attack into him so he dies, and then you give a character +2. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely got application.
I don't think it's low D. I think if anything, it'd be high D because I think it's a very sleeper thing. You're playing a 7-star character that would give another character +2 health, and his stats for a 7-star aren't that bad either.
I'm going to move it to the middle of D tier because I want to keep Magnetic Boomerang and Death Crystal Cannon above it. Just because, despite the fact that those haven't seen play in, like, any major events, they have seen play in 2 losers, so that is some sort of merit to them, whereas Sound the Alarm really hasn't seen any play, period, to my experience.
I'd say it's above Berry Banquet, personally.
Okay, yeah, you know what, I'll concede on that, but I'm going to put my foot down here.
Cool.
Squeeze play. Cool. Squeeze play. Despite Crash Bash's viability as a character, like, he's OPBL tier, we've discussed this. His strat, honestly, is not that good.
It's
no.
Right. If you're playing Decepticon only lineup, you play Villainous Spotlight over this.
Right.
If you're playing a mixed faction list, this card's actually really strong.
But I question that, because if you look at the options for cards that have both orange and blue icons, you have Recon System, which is one of the worst star cards in the game, Fuel Cache, which you're playing purely for the icons, Heroic Team Up, which you have to have 2 Autobots for that to work, and unless you're giving Crash Bash an Autobot head, not really good. Pincer Movement, which if you're playing enough Decepticons to warrant this, you might as well go up to Villainous Spotlight. Relentless Invasion does nothing, and what else is on here? The Touch. Where are you playing an Autobot leader with Crash Bash? And then the Aspects, what Quintesson leaders or Quintesson specialists are pairing with Crash Bash? So, like, the only things on there...
I disagree strongly with Recon System. I actually think that card is actually very, very good in certain situations. Arc Windblade, really good with. There's some really, really good characters that bother about if you flip this many colors. I don't think Squeeze Play you play Villainous Spotlight every 99.9% recurring times you play that. But Squeeze Play has got a role to play. I'd say it's probably low C, high D.
It's cheating stars. Cheating stars is always going to be decent-ish. There's better cards in the blank cards, so I'm very confident it's above Red Wizard stuff in a higher tier. Pincer movement, you get 2 free pincer movements, but I think you're missing the point as well. If you say you play Villainous Spotlight, that's fine. I had a deck where I played all Decepticons with Squeeze Play, and I could play all 3 copies of pincer movements, and then again another orange card from Villainous or another orange blue from Squeeze Play, and I discounted my deck by 2 stars. So 4 stars in there for only 2 stars on the board. So in combination with each other, they're very good.
Yeah, I think it's a good card.
Alrighty, then you guys place it. I don't know what to say about it.
I think it would be maybe D. I probably wouldn't put it too high to be C, just because the options are limited to sort of Squeeze Play. There's not lots of stuff you can do with the other ones as such, but
I'll slot it near Enterprising Spotlight, so...
I think it's got more application than that. I think it would probably be high D, to be fair.
I'll that's about as far as I'll move it up, right below Death Crystal. I'm not even saying this because I like Death Crystal. I'm just, like, again, I'm using that as... Yeah, you get what I'm saying with it. Next, Stuck on You. I know both me and Naga have opinions on this card because we have both used it to pretty decent capacities. I used it in the deck that shall not be named. You've tried it with some jazz shenanigans, so...
It's the first OPBL card that we've got here.
Really? You put it in
I am talking to Bill. I've done some shit with this thing, with particular characters. I'm talking to Bill that this thing needs a slight tweak. Because the shit you can pull off with this card and other cards is insane.
Are you
There's a point...
Are you able to provide an example that doesn't...
Ultra Magnus, Jetfire. You can flip Jetfire, flip Stuck on You, and you can play an upgrade in your second turn. Right? Even if you're going second, if you've got enough in the scrap pile, you can get 3 cards in your first turn on the field. That's insane tempo play, especially with Ultra Magnus and Jetfire as well. You can get stuff like your armors and stuff like that you can get back in. You can get superior platings for free. You can get ghost shields for free, regardless of how many...
I'm going to interrupt you on that. The Ghost Shield play is especially good with Promo Omega, and I have done that repeatedly. If you know anything about the history of this channel, you know why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's insanely good. I think I've played it a lot when we've done our Trop Nights and stuff like that, and Oz has also said the same thing. It needs a tweak to probably where you need to actually flip that character to be able to activate that effect. Because you can just sit there and then just flip that, and then you pull in a superior plating. You pull in the ghost shields. You pull in force fields. You pull in blast shields. I've been playing blast shields because you get +2 defense, and then it scraps again. Mostly for Jetfire, but you can do that.
You realize emergency barricade is a thing, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
You can even run this with Impervious Magnus if you lose your... By some grace of God, you don't have the armor to save the Magnus armor. You just go, oh, well,
what did you say? What did you say? You lose your what?
If you
Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus and Ultra Magnus armor with Impervious. If God forbid you lose your Magnus armor, you can just flip this back.
Okay.
Like, this card is arguably probably one of the strongest.
And here I was saying it was B tier because it had a couple of niche applications to help some 2-wide teams rotate some durability, but it wasn't doing a whole lot.
I mean, also Sandman's Lockdown Nemesis list, where you flip Lockdown, and he has got a stack of extra paddings, he's got another armor on him, and then he's got a utility and a weapon most times. He just flips Lockdown down, and he can just pull out, that's 6 cards. Draw 6, discard 6. You churn through like almost, almost 1/4 of your deck by just a flip. You can pull your stuff back in to always make sure your Nemesis and your Lockdown have stuff on them. And he's an Equipment Enthusiast for a an absolute ton, and I have as well. With Jetfire and Ultra Magnus, you can have 8 upgrades on the field at one point. You can equip an Enthusiast for 8. And it's not that hard, especially with Ultra Magnus and Jetfire. You just pull the shit in, and you just have to play, like, upgrade. You have to play a weapon on each of them, and then you have to play a utility. And then it's very easy. Flip Jetfire a couple times. I mean, in the last couple of days, on my going second, I've pulled in 3 upgrades on the first turn and played an Equipment Enthusiast for draw 3. And you know that we banned, Mission Briefing, because you could do some stuff with BFB Sideswipe and having 3 Battle Masters and just being able to draw 3 on a white card. So I drew 3 and I had 4 upgrades, on the field because I had Magnus armor at the time. So you have 4 upgrades on the field on your second turn and you drew 4. You've kind of basically won the game at that point, to be fair.
I have to ask what you guys in Trop are smoking to get to this level of galaxy braining to the point where you can figure this crap out.
I just let everyone else work it out. I just like copy.
That makes 2 of us.
It's insanely good for 2 wide teams. It makes it very viable. I've done this with Jazz, stuck on you an Ultra Magnus armor on Jazz as well. It's just, that's insane. You pull it in, and like I said, Jazz just will not take damage.
And here I was
so many good applications.
Here I was thinking we weren't going to have an OPBL card, but I think we've talked this thing to death. Roll the joke! Okay, now that has been rolled, last line of defense. I have opinions about this card, and they are.
I think this is more you, eh?
Yeah, so as much as I have said this thing is broken, if you haven't picked up on that yet, that is an obvious joke. This card actually isn't that good. It honestly isn't. Countdown is the main enabler for Captain Omega. Now, I think John might have mentioned on the channel a couple of times that this card pulled Omega into relevance. It was more Countdown for sure, looking back on it in hindsight. Like, this thing, don't get me wrong, allows some shenanigans and does give Omega that extra health. But it's mainly Countdown that has enabled things. And the what?
I think
the Brave. I forgot about the Brave.
You can't discount it. I think for 1 star, this does an awful lot. Like, Loot Crate Omega was trash. This card's made him at least playable. You've played him to decent effect.
Right.
In events. I made Lee rage quit over this card.
So, it also, can I talk about how funny it is that Omega and Devastator, these big rivals from G1, were absolute garbage, and then the fan sets came in and just both superpowered them to the moon, and now they can actually throw punches with each other?
Yeah, Last Line of Defense Omega isn't a top-end deck, but it's certainly one that can catch people by surprise. Like, he hits really hard.
Without doubt. Like, yeah. I have heard Bill repeatedly say, if there is one deck you should never show to a new player, it's this one, just because of how it seems innocuous, but then it just caves your face in out of nowhere, and your opponent's just sitting there like, well, what the hell?
Yeah, I personally love it because I always wanted to use my Loot Crate Omega, and he was rubbish. So right. I would probably say this is B tier.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
I think it's B because it's not top end, but it certainly makes him a force to be reckoned with. If you're not prepared for it, he will wreck you.
Right. Also, when you made Lee rage quit with this thing, weren't you running some of the art cards that were broken at the time, or am I misremembering things?
It may have had Triplate and Resilience in A. Yes.
But even ignoring that,
I think with Tetranite Triplate, it was a miserable experience for Lee that day. He was not happy.
Yeah, I could understand that. Like, yeah. Also, fun little factoid about Last Line of Defense. This thing used to allow you to activate its move damage effect while Omega was dead, but that was changed very quickly after release, after I realized that was the case.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It's a good card. It's not busted. It's just good.
Yeah, it's a solid design, and of course I will single-handedly say this is the card that put the channel on the map, at least somewhat. So it does hold a special place in my heart for that reason, but also is the reason for my nightmares.
Trauma.
Yeah.
The trauma.
The eternal trauma. Moving on to Solo Job, we trash-talked Enterprising Spotlight earlier, but I think this thing is OPBL tier, and I'd argue it's better than Stuck on You, and you guys are free to disagree with me on this one.
I think it's in the same line as B with the Quintesson one. It's the better... It's the actual good one that you want to play with mercenaries. You play it with the one mercenary you have, and you get the 2 Black Star cards. But at the same time, it's just like, what Black Star cards are you really gonna play? Like Dave said, you play Plunder, but then
Indestructible Sword maybe.
Shard
it's like, yeah.
Well, depending on if it gets nerfed or not, Shard of the Divine Light is nuts. Again, I've talked about the match with Scorp the other night. Yeah, that was the card that single-handedly won the game for him.
Yeah, I think this card's just only held back by the fact that there isn't a vast array of mercenaries that can fit well into... You know, you look at the star cost for the really good mercenaries, like, they're relatively high. Like, even Mudflap at 8, there are better 8 stars you generally play.
Right.
Nightbird at... Well, the Wizard's Nightbird is questionable at best. Our Nightbird from Phase 1 is fine for 7. But Solo Job, there's not many targets to pull in for it. I think that's the problem. This is another card that will spike in power level if it gets more toys. So if you get more mercenaries that are affordable, and if you get better Black Star cards, this will spike in power. At the moment, I'm inclined to agree. I think it sits same sort of position as Nebulous.
Right. Okay, so I think we've talked enough about that one. Thermal Reciprocation for Powerglide. This is also kind of a wall of text. Basically, when Powerglide takes damage from opponent's cards or gets damage moved onto him, you get counters on the card, and once Powerglide dies and turns into a weapon, you can fire that damage back onto your opponent. And I used to think this card was absolutely busted because it was the only thing that could beat last line of defense. But then again, that was 2020 Hawk, who was a total idiot when it came to this game. And realistically, I think this thing is in D tier, probably like above Enterprising. Actually, no, I'm going to put it at the bottom of D tier.
I don't think it's the best, yeah.
No, it's okay. I've been playing around with this with Powerglide, with Art Windblade, and Brainstorm from Monster Menagerie. Like, it's a casual deck. Like, it's fun. Like, it's got, you know, you can do a few damage with it when it goes off, but normally Powerglide, even with the +5 health, he normally just falls over and dies relatively quickly.
Yeah, but so, I mean, like, in his
it'll
case,
shoot for 1 maybe 2, but like, yeah, it's not great. It's okay.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Naga, you got anything else to say on it?
No, I mean, Wall of Text, I haven't really played it.
Yeah, albeit it
Too much reading.
The Wall of Text did get broken up a little bit in its 1.1 update when it was modified slightly to prevent Powerglide's weapon mode from giving characters additional health. Which, that was fun.
I just think there's better weapons, though, anyway, for 7 stars. I'd rather play characters that are actually Battle Masters, I'm not going to lie, because these guys aren't Battle Masters. They don't have that trait, so...
Oh, yeah. I remember Tank still is mad that Shock Blast did things with Roadmaster, even though Shock Blast isn't a Battle Master. Speaking of Shock Blast, Third Party Brigade, which was kind of the first indication of crossplay in the post-cancellation era that the game ever saw. Because I'm pretty sure Bill developed this without the ARC really being aware of what was going on with BFA. And just allows you to play Bruticus with Shock Blast, but at the cost of what your first black icon card you flip, you have to scrap it. You don't get any of its icons, which...
It's actually really bad, but it's actually really bad for Bruticus to scrap that first black pip card.
Yep,
yeah.
It really is.
I've played a lot of Bruticus. I think it was one of the first decks I put together when Art Wave 1 dropped. Like, again, you're going 6 wide. I don't think Bruticus needs to be 6 wide to kill people. And scrapping your first black pip, scrapping your first black pip is bad. I would put this in D tier only because it makes it a 6-wide team.
Where exactly would you slot it in?
Probably above Berry Banquet still, probably. It's okay. Going 6-wide is good. But, yeah, I think I've said it about 5 million times now.
Well, we'll stick on the subject of Shock Blast and talk about this gun for hire, which turns Shock Blast into a merc and basically allows anyone to use the Astro Magnum's bounty ability, gives him a bit of extra health, bit of extra attack. Where are we slotting him?
I think same with...
I think it's better than Powerglide.
Yeah.
I think with the recent change that I pointed out, that when you make him a mercenary, the gun doesn't change the mercenary. That being changed now, I think is good. I don't know if that's on the... Yeah, that is good. I was just double checking that it was updated on my end. Yes, it works with Zombie Prime then. If you play it with Zombie Prime and then you kill it and you put on Zombie Prime, he actually has +4 attack because he gives himself a bonus because he doesn't share the faction with the mercenary upgrade. That's the only reason why. Just consistency with the BFA suggested it does like that. Other than that, I don't think Shock Blast is that great.
I've used him with Roadmaster in BFB beta testing, and that is... He's decent with Roadmaster, specifically to Tritus, because of the fact that it draws your opponent cards, which is good for what Roadmaster wants to be doing. But outside of that, yeah, I completely agree. So where are we slotting this?
Probably around the same sort of spot as third party. I think it's better than one, but not.
Say that again. You cut out.
Sorry, I think it's better than the Powerglide one. Around where you put it, yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll slot it around third party. We'll say that's up for debate.
Yeah.
And then Trigger Convention. This is another one I have opinions about because I have plenty of experience with this card, and it's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it is actually a pretty fun deck. But in terms of it being competitively viable,
you have to play all 3 characters, and it's exactly 25, isn't it?
No, it's actually 29, but Trigger Convention allows you to...
No, yeah, that's what I mean, right? You have to play all 3 characters, and then it's exactly 25. You can't play anything, other stratagems, any other star cards with this. You're locked into Crankcase, Windsweeper, and Ruckus. Ruckus is blank.
But it's actually, like, in practice, despite the fact that Ruckus is a blank, he actually does things in this deck. And, like, if you play it in a blue shell, it can do things. It's like... It's not competitively viable, like I said, but it's one of those decks where it's just, you see it run on the table, and it's just like, it's stupid, but it's one of those things that you can't help but cracking a smile at. And, like, because of that, I'm tempted to put it either in the top of C tier or maybe the low end of B tier, but,
No. You're locked into a team that really doesn't synergize with each other. Yes, you still get Windsweepers.
Have you seen this deck actually played?
No, that's the thing. I haven't seen it.
Well, here's the... I have played it quite a bit of it, and it is surprisingly pretty robust, all things considered, so...
The team doesn't really work together.
It actually does. Dave, you were saying something?
I can't really comment, because I've not played with this. I think getting a 29 team for 25 is... okay. Windsweeper, I'd always much rather just play planes.
Well, again, like, Windsweeper, like, again, his thing gets turned off, essentially, so you always move 2 damage, but it's actually, like, like, they don't have any, like, synergy in terms of they're all trying to do the same thing, but as a combined unit, it's really nice. You have Ruckus serving as the tank, you have Crankcase as the draw engine and the beat stick, and you have Windsweeper kind of cleaning things up and serving as a way to move damage around and keep you alive. Like, it doesn't seem synergistic on paper, but surprisingly enough, it actually plays fairly cohesively.
I think you need
you're not getting that much bonus, though.
Yeah, I'm not saying you do, but at the very least, there is a game plan there that you can make use of the characters with. It's just not as clear-cut as it might seem at first glance.
you get a 38 health team, which is I guess is okay. But I mean, this is looking like the same as if you were just to play planes with Windsweeper. I mean, you don't get the body of Ruckus having 7 base. I guess Crankcase is very niche. He's basically any 7-star character that you could probably fit in with Slipstream. It's literally kind of going, okay, I'm playing Ruckus instead of Slipstream. I'm not moving extra damage. I just have bonus attack. Because Slipstream's also got more health than Ruckus. She's got a little bit less defense. She's also ranged, but she doesn't have 7 base attack. And all you're doing is paying for +4 for minus move on 2 of your characters, and then your other plane could have some different utility, or you could be playing the Windsweeper Stratagem. I think Planes is just better than this. The team that you're locked into isn't that great. You're not going to do much with that team. You can't play other stratagems. You can't play starred cards. You can't play anything with cars. You can't play anything with planes. You're locked into a team that's a car, a truck, and a plane. You can't play any You can't play any trait things with them. Apart from, I mean, you can play ranged. There's like 2 of them are 50% ranged, 50% melee. But at the same time, there's just no. You just play Slipstream in and then a plane, and you can play Sky Shadow plane, and then it's basically already better at that point.
Okay,
I think being locked into a team is bad. I think it's D tier. I honestly think it's D tier. Any of those stratagems that are more versatile than that one.
I will move it down 2 slots, but I am putting my foot there because I am choosing to be my one dictator. I am going to put this here, and you can't stop me move. I'm going to waste it on this.
Fair enough.
Fine.
Because, like, me and Naga are going to have to fight over this afterwards.
I would like to see the deck in action, though. To be fair, I would like to see that.
Well, I mean, I had a whole documentary on Ruckus that I will link in the description. Anyways, we mentioned Exhaust Strat earlier. I think let's talk about that now. Up in Smoke.
D.
D, yeah, I would agree. Where in D would we slot this?
I think it's higher D because you could actually get some use out of this, but you don't play Exhaust without Brutal Con. I've played this a couple times. I've made like a very heavy Pierce deck with this. You start with a Smoke Cloak in your hand. Every time you have a Smoke Thrower or Smoke Cloak on your Exhaust, he hits Pierce, and it's actually very good. Like, you play the Smoke Cloak onto him, and you play a Smoke Thrower onto him as well, and then you hit loads of Pierce, literally. If you're playing Brutal Con with him, you're taking him to 11 stars, which is still okay. You hit off Brutal Con. He can attack for about 6 base, and then you will flip the Pierce that you need. If you've got an Energon Axe onto him, he will hit, like, Pierce 9. 9 Pierce 9, pretty easily with a Stratagem. The fact, though, you take him to 11, and then you can't do much else to support him that well.
It's too many eggs in one basket at that point, isn't it?
It is. And then you can just play black icons, and then it kind of nullifies it out. I mean, the Smoke Throw is not probably the best. Like I just said, Energon Axe is probably the better one. And then you put a Smoke Cloak, and he gets Pierce 2. You've got base of Pierce 4. You hit the Brutal Con. He can hit nice Pierce numbers, but then you're using a staff for it, and I don't think it's the best. Plus, you kind of want Smoke Cloak in the deck because it's got the black icon. You want it in the actual deck so you can flip it.
Yeah, maybe sideboard if like blue control becomes great again. You'd maybe consider sideboard then, but like otherwise, yeah, I think D, definitely.
I think D. I think it's a high D to be fair, but
I slotted it in between Sound the Alarm and Squeeze Play. So unless I feel like that's a decent spot, but okay.
Yeah, cool.
V2 Sonic Surge Drone Armor, I believe that's what it's called. Let me pull it back up here. Yep, Sonic Surge Drone Armor. I mean, it essentially turns Ravage into a defensive thrust. That's what this thing does. And this was actually part of the Soundwave Ravage Nacelle team I mentioned earlier. And
yeah,
I want to say D tier, but at the same time, I think it might deserve Cup tier, but I'm open to you guys arguing on this one.
I don't think it goes any higher than D.
Yeah,
it's like the same thing. This Soundwave team is just not good.
No question about that. It's just where in that D Cup tier do we slot it?
I'd say either the bottom of D or the top of Cup, because even with the +2 health, he's still only like the 3
9.
defense is okay, but then you're sacrificing an attack to tap him to buff someone else's defense. Like the reason Thrust is okay is because like he make Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend hit for 1 million. Blocking for like 5 base in this land of orange black Pierce is not. It's not good enough.
Okay, I'll throw it in Cup tier then, unless you guys have any disagreements on that.
No,
it's fine.
It's probably the best of the Cup tier, but it's not great.
Alright, and then rounding out the list. Wow, how long have we been at this? Holy crap, we've been at this for almost an hour, almost 2 hours. Good lord. This is gonna be fun to edit.
I've had a small human just arrive in.
Okay, let's wrap this up quickly. Verdant Aegis. It basically turns green light into scrapnel. Evangelist used some stuff with
like permanent force field, really.
Yeah, Evangelist did some stuff with this in Losers. Hold on, I'm gonna whatever. Evangelist did some stuff with this in Losers, but like
I think it could be D.
Yeah,
Use Safeguard, you go to 3, then you can take another 2 hits as long as you have all 3. It takes a while to get there. If you only have 3 and they remove one of it, then it gets turned off. Oh, actually, wait, she's got in that mode. But I mean, Impetuous is a thing. Impetuous gets around green light. I think it's a D. I don't think it goes any higher than that. It's nice for green light. But now you're paying 9 stars for this character.
Right.
So.
And where exactly would we slot this in D tier?
I don't know at this point, They're all just sort of meshed together as D to me, really.
Above Berry Banquet. That's kind of my staple for the entire discussion. It's just been put it above Berry Banquet.
Yeah, I think I'd agree as well.
Again, like, it has seen some weird shenanigans with Vangelis running around, so, like, I want to put it a little higher. I'll slot it beneath Squeeze Play, and you guys can yell at me in 3, 2, 1.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
No, I mean, there's stuff you could do. I mean, it requires green upgrades. You can put, like, a toolbox onto her. They can only Impetuous or disarm it or Debilitation Crystal, and you can heal her, and you can keep her above that 4 attack threshold. I may have to play with that now, actually. That sounds quite fun. But yeah.
Okay, so that is all 35 strats in BFA. Are there any we want to shuffle around here quickly? Yeah, I think that will, I think we've got everything solidified, so that will do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here today, and if you disagree with anything you see here, you can't. This is, this is not your room to, this is not your, place to argue things. This is obviously our decisions, and we are obviously correct. No, I'm just kidding. If you have any disagreements on this, drop them in the comments below. Call us out on being idiots, especially me. Probably only me, because you don't want to piss off these two, because one of them's a mad scientist and the other's an admin on the Discord server, so, yeah. But, yeah, where would you place any of this crap? Would you say that Stuck On You is OPBL tier? Do you think that Trigger Convention is better than these two claim it is, or rather just Naga claims it is? That's the one.
It's not, but okay.
I will find a way. I will figure out a way to argue with this later, but... With that being said, again, hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here today. If you did, there's a little red button you can push down below to show that. And next week, we're probably going to bring some more chaos than this. Because I'm thinking about doing a Primus video with the Galactic Odyssey. I need to wrangle up some people to get that done, but we will see what happens. But in the meantime, that will do it for this video. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.